So, former President Barack Obama, endorsed Joe Biden today, the day after Bernie did. And obviously that was no surprise. Obama was, or at least he said he was going to come out and endorse, whoever the Democratic nominee was going to be. So Obama came out today with that endorsement and this 12-minute video full of platitudes and word sandwiches that sounded nice but didn't really tell us a whole lot about why he's actually supporting Joe Biden at this point. And he talked about things like, well, Joe Biden has the experience and character. He's running on the most, check this out, this is what Obama said, it's just obviously complete bullshit, the most progressive platform of any Democratic nominee in our history. I mean, for God's sakes, Hillary Clinton was to the right, or I should say to the left of Joe Biden on healthcare. She was willing to lower the Medicare eligibility age either to 55 or 50. Joe Biden, 4 years later, when the country, and especially Democratic voters, very much want a Medicare for all single payer system, he only wants to lower it to 60 years old. I mean, come on, this is not the most progressive candidate or nominee, for God's sakes. Hillary was to the left of Biden, and this was 4 years ago, and the country has moved significantly to the left on the issue of healthcare in particular. And I mean, again, it should also be pointed out that President Obama has been working behind the scenes pretty much constantly, it seems like, to undermine Bernie Sanders' chance of becoming the nominee. And there's that report several months back where some Obama people had leaked that if it looked like Bernie Sanders was going to become the nominee, if he had all the momentum on his side, then Obama would step in at that point, and which is exactly what happened. Before Super Tuesday, he reached out, contacted Pete Buttigieg, says, hey Pete, Mayor Pete, CIA Pete, Mayor Rat, however he referred to him in that conversation. I digress. But so he was like, hey Pete, you have a lot of leverage right now. If you drop out, you could probably get some type of nice cabinet position in a Biden administration. So why don't you do me a solid here, drop out, throw your support behind crazy Uncle Joe. And that's exactly what Pete Buttigieg did, because he's a careerist. He is a empty suit. He stands for nothing except for advancing his own self-interest, even if that means completely selling out and endorsing Joe Biden. And Obama has also been talking to Bernie behind the scenes, and talked to him, I believe, a couple of days before, or very shortly before, Bernie dropped out. So Obama has basically been the puppet master, pulling the strings, behind the scenes, making it so Bernie had no shot of becoming the nominee. And obviously, Bernie and his team, Bernie in particular, because his team, wanted him to change around some of his strategy and messaging around Biden, but Bernie wasn't willing to do that. So, I mean, one of the factors of why Bernie isn't the nominee, is because of Obama's handiwork, because Obama would rather prop up the Joe Biden, who's in obvious and very serious and sad cognitive decline. There's a sexual assault allegation, against Biden from his former Senate staffer, Tara Reid. We have his, just horrible policy positions on, and his voting record, decades-long shitty voting record, NAFTA, Iraq War, wanting to cut Social Security, PNTR, the bankruptcy bill, the crime bill, which Bernie also supported, bragging about working with segregationists, all of these things. And so Obama in 2008 was all hope and change, we can make the world better, yay, let's create some progress, to 2020 where it's now nope and lame, which I think Kyle Kalinske made that point, so I can't take credit for the nope and lame, going from the hope and change to the nope and lame. But it's definitely a little tasty treat here, dandelion. It's definitely very accurate of what happened. And again, one of the reasons Donald Trump got elected, one of the reasons he's the president of the United States currently, is because of the massive failings of the Obama and Biden administration. They bailed out Wall Street. They allowed, I think it's like 5 million people lost their homes during the Great Recession. They bailed out Wall Street. They bailed out the big banks. And they said, fuck you to the working people. They said, fuck you to the homeowners. All the while, giving out these, hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars to the same people and financial corporations that were the cause of the Great Recession in the first place. And then you have, the Obama accelerating the drone warfare program, which I believe has about a 90% civilian death rate. So, 90% of the time it's not actually killing the supposed enemy combatants that they were supposed to be targeting. He ramped up, I believe, from 2 to 7 wars. The process, the list goes on and on. One of the few, and then the complete abdication on the issue of healthcare when he had a super majority in the fucking Senate, a majority in the House. He could have used the bully pulpit like Bernie Sanders said he would by making the case for Medicare for all, something he did, I believe, campaigned a little bit on in 2008. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But he could have easily advocated for that, and at the very least, we could have got a public option out of it. So Obama is not your friend if you are part of the working class. He doesn't give a shit about you. He was willing to do everything in his power to sabotage Bernie's chances of becoming the nominee, because if Bernie Sanders became the nominee, it would be a complete and total rebuke on the Obama years, because a lot of what Bernie stood for and his policy positions were quite to the left of Obama, and so it would basically be seen as a referendum on Obama and his style of politics. And again, Obama is also a very wealthy person, has a net worth in the tens of millions of dollars, if not more. He pals around with billionaires like Richard Branson, like David Geffen, goes on Geffen's massive and disgusting yacht, and gives speeches to Wall Street where he pockets hundreds of thousands of dollars by giving speeches to these same companies and people who led to the Great Recession. Those are Obama's buddies. He's not the friend of the working people, and that's obviously evidenced by him propping up Joe Biden at all costs. And it's kind of interesting to think, because I believe it was either before this run or maybe in 2016 when Biden was thinking about running, but Obama was telling him, I was like, Joe, you don't need to do this, man. You might mess up your legacy, you might hurt your legacy. But he didn't end up listening, and he held out endorsing Biden until the last minute because, I think he sees him as such a weak and failed candidate. But again, he would rather prop up, Joe Biden, who's in very serious and sad cognitive decline, along with the sexual assault allegation, his horrible policy record. He doesn't have a grassroots movement. There's literally no enthusiasm behind Joe Biden. He has the lowest enthusiasm for his candidacy of any nominee in U.S. presidential history. He would rather prop up that person than actually get behind the candidate who was trying to fight and stand up for the working people. And again, Bernie completely sold out by endorsing Joe Biden yesterday with getting no policy concessions. So I definitely have a good amount of criticism towards Bernie as well. And he wasn't willing to stand up and fight when it mattered most. And that's really sad and disturbing from my perspective, obviously. But it's really really telling that Obama is willing to just do whatever in his power he could to make sure Bernie wasn't the nominee. So the candidate who actually wanted to give people health care, so we don't have 68,000+ people dying, so we don't have 500,000+ people going bankrupt each year, so we have an inhabitable planet to live on by enacting things like a Green New Deal. He's like, fuck you, I gotta protect my legacy, I gotta prop up my class interests. Bernie's a little bit too radical for me, so I'm gonna prop up the senile rapist and warmonger in Joe Biden instead. And that's basically what happened. And I also think that's frankly one of the failings of Bernie and his campaign is you needed to make the point that Trump is just a symptom. He's actually not the root of the problem himself, and he should have really went after Obama and things like the Wall Street bailout, a fucking shitbag Obamacare healthcare plan. Just another big giveaway to the insurance companies, the ramping up the drone warfare, a lot of war crimes there. All of these things that were huge failings under Obama and Biden needed to be pointed out. Bernie wasn't willing to do that, and so Obama basically gets a free ride. That's a bit of a digression, but and so in this endorsement video, Obama also talked about how, this has been one of the toughest campaigns ever. Joe Biden's been thoroughly vetted, and, he's got all of this, criticism, and he stood up well too. It's like, actually, no, that's not true at all. Joe Biden got the kid's glove treatment from Bernie Sanders, from Elizabeth Warren, from all these other candidates, pretty much from the mainstream media as well. And obviously Trump and the Republicans in the general election aren't going to use kid gloves. Trump has already brought up the dementia aspect, I should say, of Joe Biden, his cognitive decline. He was basically saying, somebody was like, Biden released this tweet criticizing your coronavirus response, and Trump was like, he didn't write that. He doesn't even know what he's doing right now. Somebody on his team wrote that tweet and put it out. That wasn't Joe Biden. So that's obviously not true. And Obama also tried to pay some lip service to Bernie Sanders, tried to say some nice things about him, saying, well, we don't always agree on everything, but, you know, he's a really good politician, he's a good person, I believe in some of what he's, but obviously that's complete bullshit. He doesn't basically believe in any of the things that Bernie Sanders supports. That's why he was actively trying to sabotage Bernie Sanders' chances of becoming the nominee throughout this whole process, but doing it behind the scenes so he wasn't so just out front and obvious with it. But that's definitely, you know, what was going on. And again, it's like, to these people, it doesn't really matter if, you know, we don't get things like Medicare for all or a Green New Deal or canceling student loan debt or making college tuition free, because Obama's wealthy. He has tens of millions of dollars. His children don't have to worry about being shackled with student loan debt. They don't have to worry about, you know, if they get a medical bill, how's it going to be paid. They don't have to worry about, you know, a living wage or job security or an habitable planet. They can, you know, get in their private helicopter and go fly to, you know, wherever in the world that they would need to escape any type of disaster or calamity. Obviously, that's not the case for everybody, and it just honestly shows how out of touch people like Obama are and how they will do anything to protect their own class interests no matter the cost. And that's just evidenced by him endorsing Joe Biden and doing everything behind the scenes to make sure Bernie Sanders wasn't going to become the Democratic nominee. And I mean, from my perspective, honestly, there's very few things that Obama did as president that were actually positive. One of the few would be the Iran nuclear deal. I mean, the Obama administration was willing to make a grand bargain with the Republicans to cut Social Security. This is our supposed progressive savior of a president. It's a bunch of bullshit. The only reason the Democratic establishment and the corporate elite and Wall Street was willing to let Obama become president and become the Democratic nominee, because they understood that he wasn't a threat to their interests at all. And actually, he was really good for it, because once Obama was in power, the left, you know, largely didn't criticize him or tried to hold him to account at all, because he was a, you know, he was a Democrat. And again, one of the reasons we have Trump right now is because of the failings of administrations like Obama, like Clinton, that haven't really advocated, just even on the smallest level, to make these really important changes that we need in the United States to actually become a functioning society where we guarantee healthcare as a human right, where college is free, where we have a Green New Deal, where we have a livable wage, where we have a wealth tax. All of these things where we protect and expand Social Security, not try to negotiate with the Republicans on how much to cut it, like happened under Obama, Biden. And so, I mean, Obama, again, the only reason they didn't push back against him like they did against Bernie, because they knew that a Obama administration was going to just continue to prop up the status quo. And you saw that with who he put in his cabinet. It was filled with people that had formerly worked on Wall Street. And I mean, no wonder that they bailed out the banks and big business while 5 million people, you know, were kicked out of their homes. That's the legacy of Obama, Biden. And it's one of the reasons that we had Trump. People were and are looking for a change, and somewhere to direct your anger. Obviously, it's misplaced. The targets that, you know, Trump is telling people to get pissed off at, like, you know, immigrants and migrants and, you know, the poor and the downtrodden. Obviously, that's misdirected. It's the 99% against 1%, or more like the 99.9% against the 0.1%. But you get what I'm saying. So Obama, even when he wasn't wealthy, he was doing the bidding of that, you know, top 1%, and that's why the Democratic establishment was fine with him becoming the nominee, and then supported him to become president, because he, again, did the bidding of Wall Street, the military industrial complex, these huge, you know, corporations, all of that. Obama does a really good job of talking and sounding like a progressive, and he gives, you know, really good speeches. He sounds, you know, really articulate and well put together. But if you actually look at his policies as president and the things he's done outside of office, you see you see him to be the real neoliberal centrist that he actually is, not some type of progressive or leftist or populist champion for the people that a lot of people in the mainstream media and some Democratic voters like to eulogize him as being. And I kind of fell for his shtick in 2008, but by 2012, like a lot of people, I became disillusioned, because I saw, again, it was just more of the status quo. Obama was able to give, you know, really good speeches and talk the talk, but without actually, you know, implementing any type of adequate policy on pretty much any issue or any type of, you know, platform, whether it was education, healthcare, the environment. He bragged about how, you know, he made the United States the biggest producer of oil in the world, all the while, you know, we were experiencing all these horrible effects of climate change, all of these things. I mean, this is that's good. This is Obama's legacy, and that's why he didn't want Bernie. I think it's one of the reasons he didn't want Bernie to become the nominee and to become president, because it would be, again, a complete rebuke on Obama's legacy, and again, also because of the class interest of Obama himself and the people that he aligns himself with. So, not a surprise, but again, Obama is not your friend unless you are part of the 1%, unfortunately. Those are my thoughts. I would love to hear his piece. Much love.